My name is Renee Siegel, and I'm located in Scottsdale, Arizona. And my title is I'm a licensed counselor, addictions counselor, and an internationally certified coach through the ICF. In 2018, so it's only been 7 years, just about 7 years ago. It was actually in response to the limitations that I experienced as a counselor and the capacity to look at building architecture and being more client focused. Um, and when I chose my coaching school, one of the reasons I chose the school I did is because I really felt that this school provided me with an opportunity to have a little bit of Enneagram basic stuff because I've been an Enneagram master teacher for over 20 years, and an opportunity to explore other paths. There was a whole area on nonviolent communication. I mean, just the curriculum it was so thoughtfully designed. So I am very happy that I chose the school that I did. A lot of coaching of the differences between counseling and coaching, really the fine nuances around that, and the strong focus on building architecture versus the archaeological dig, and the positivity around doing that. I mean, I have had some of my counseling clients for years, and they have absolutely no interest in doing anything other than seeing me as a safe place and a confidant, which I don't want to minimize the importance of that at all. Um, but there's there's a satisfaction when coaching with the mutual goal setting and people moving forward and taking action. And it's almost like I get the gift of seeing the light and the positivity and the changes that are contributing to, in my opinion, a better world. Well, there's a lot of business like development because I mean, I've been a therapist for 47 years and I've had my own practice for that long. So I was ahead of the game in terms of knowing something about marketing myself and having had a name that was known around at least the valley and internationally for my specialty. I didn't have that as something that I really had to work on. But promoting myself as a coach and business development around that model is very different. I've never taken insurance, so that was never a problem because coaches aren't covered by insurance. That was never an obstacle. But there is definitely a difference between someone who wants to be coached and someone who wants to be counseled. Really different, a big difference actually, I think. And one of them is that there's a greater motivation for people who really understand what coaching's all about, and a greater desire for autonomy and personal agency and a lot of other things. But I really loved the business development aspects of it, and you know, they were really well thought out. And we were able to get a lot of time with people who had promoted themselves as coaches and ask questions and refine our model, even if we already had a business model. So, well, it depends where they're coming from. If somebody has never been involved in any of this before, I would have some different advice or counsel than I would for somebody who's moving from counseling to coaching or maybe trying to integrate the two into their practice. I think the integration of the two is difficult. I mean, I have to figure out what hat I'm wearing anytime I go into session and remind myself sometimes because I'm not perfect, I make mistakes. Um, so they think that's much more difficult. But I think the advice that I'd have for somebody that was moving from a counseling to a coaching model would be, are you really prepared for people to be a lot more equipped to make change than you think they are? For people to actually have the answers? And are you patient enough to ask questions, create a safe space for them to come to those conclusions on their own? Um, and that's a very different model. It's a very different way of being with clients. I think for people who have never done any of this kind of work, I think there are definitely some skills, innate skills that are probably good for both coaches and counselors to have. And that is a real desire to be helpful, uh, a need not to know the answers, and not to have to do things the right way or the one way. Um, and that evidence-based best practices are varied. They're really varied based on temperament. It's one of the reasons the Enneagram is the really strong focus and the hub of my practice, because I coach and counsel very differently to each of the different Enneagram types. Um, and the other thing that it was really hard for me was finding a niche. I mean, after 47 years of practicing in some mental health capacity, there are so many things that I know how to do that are so appealing to a lot of people, and they come with me when I engage with a client and we make a good connect and make an agreement to do some counseling or coaching together. Um, but and that's good. Goes back to another question they asked too about promoting yourself or how to market yourself or that niche piece was probably the toughest piece for me in all of it, because even though I bring myself wherever I go with all my experience, I had to choose and refine my elevator speech or a synopsis of what I do and who I work with best to this niche audience. And I had to come to grips with the fact that that was not a limitation at all. That in fact, in some ways, it was a focal point and a way of opening a door and a way of being seen differently than I have been seen in the past, if that makes any sense. Well, if they're thinking about going to a coaching school and becoming a coach, I would definitely encourage a school that is supported by the International Coaching Federation, because it is the gold standard. I think that in time that this idea that you can be a coach just because you want to be a coach is going to be seen a whole lot differently for people who have an ICF. They've gone to an ICF accredited school and are going through the ICF accreditation process. It's recognized globally. I mean, we are in a global community right now, and I think that that's real. It's really important to be held globally and educated globally and exposed to global ideas around coaching. So I think that's really important. But to also look at the various specialties that are offered through the schools, because like I said, I was really, really um, uh, it was really appealing when I knew that there was an Enneagram focus. I mean, my practice has an Enneagram focus. Sandy Hogan, may God rest her soul, was a dear friend of mine, part of the Arizona Enneagram Association, dear friend and colleague, and she really heavily influenced me to look at the school. Um, so I think based on what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go with your coaching practice, you should interview schools. And Laura was kind enough to allow me to interview her, I think, more than once before I finally made a decision. And I knew it was a good fit after the first call, but I had a lot of questions. I would say empowering others. And it had been a really important piece of my counseling practice, and I wasn't able to achieve that same thing through the counseling model that I do through coaching, because it's truly about empowering other people. Well, I had a full-time practice. I have 6 children, and at that time I had maybe a grandchild or 2. Now I have 11. I had just wound down from an agency. It was a time I really wanted to make sure that I knew I could go through it regardless, but to be really present and go through it and really dedicate the time and make sure that I was investing in the right way with my time and effort, that was probably the biggest one. I really wanted to be there. As an Enneagram Type 2, relationships are my jam. I love relationship work. I was originally educated as a marriage and family therapist a long, long, long time ago. So working on issues that impact relationships are probably my favorite thing. I have designed family treatment programs for addictions because I've been in the addictions field for a long time too. And the experience, kind of the universal experience that we've all had through the pandemic now of experiencing trauma and how you can coach as well as counsel through trauma, which I think is so cool. For a long time, I think that therapists thought that they had the way to a model, the only model to offer for trauma. And there are so many trauma informed coaching practices now that I think are absolutely essential, because I think in some ways, based on everything that's going on in our globe right now, many of us are in fight, flight, or freeze mode, um, and need to come out of that in order to have really good executive functioning and have clarity and create discernment in our lives. And it's really difficult when your body's been hijacked by trauma. So I will promote my latest book, which is called Reclaiming You, which is about moving through trauma through the use of the Enneagram. Um, so I love working with people who have a real strong desire to move through trauma, some of whom have tried therapists and coaches and have had no success, because without doing body work, trauma is not something that you resolve. And then my goal, my future goal, is to create a curriculum using the Enneagram for premarital counseling, which is a dream I've had for a long time, and I've been slowly working on it for a long time, and I hope I complete it. So, yeah, my practice is called You Are Pure Potential. The letter U, the letter R, and the word Pure Potential. It's my website. You can check me out. And my name is Renee Siegel, and I'm really, really grateful for this time that has been given to me to share my thoughts about coaching and yeah, what's going on